Hey guys, what's going on? Absolutely beast here. So there's a 2-for-1 today, 2 races in one. This first race, a couple minutes, about 4 or 5 minutes, is with the Ford GT. It's a race on Sebring. And then the second one, and by the way, this car is sweet. Okay, this was a cover car, and I raced this car so much on the Forza 6 demo, just to sort of like prepare myself for this game before it came out. And it was the only car available, so you could just race it on the same track over and over again. But I never realized how sick this car was. Just sick. Sounds great, handles really great, and I love that active spoiler. That thing is mean. Yes, anyway. And then the second race is with the Bugatti Veyron. It's a passing challenge, so you'll see me weaving in and out of, like little, I don't know what they are, little tiny, small, really, really slow cars. So, yeah, I want to get into some stuff today about Forza 7, as I have been the last little while. So I found another interview today that I had not seen with Dan Greenawalt at E3, and so I watched that whole thing. And the reason I found that was because I actually found the Forza Motorsport 7 forum. So on ForzaMotorsport.net, they actually have a forum section, and there's already a forum up for Forza Motorsport 7, and there's a general discussion thread, and I popped in there and found some fellow racers who were chatting about it, and I found a couple links to a couple interviews. So I may watch one of the other ones now, or when I'm done with this. But so the interview was with Dan Greenawalt, and it was sort of the basics. It was sort of covering most of the things that we've already covered so far, but there was a little bit of variations in there, a little more information. So first thing that I actually haven't talked about yet, and I can't believe I haven't, but it makes sense because it's something that it's not super important to me, is the look at that terrible line. Great line, great line. So is about pulling the driver out of the car. So he's talking about being able to customize your driver. So in my opinion, that means like helmets and suits and gloves and stuff like that, being able to customize that. And you can actually be a guy or a girl also, which pretty sure everybody out here knows that at least some percentage of guys will be a girl in every single game they play. And personally, I don't understand that. I think it's kind of weird, personally. As someone who plays a lot of video games, you're supposed to identify with your character. So, if you're like an 18-year-old dude and you want to be like a chick, I mean, I just don't understand that. That's just, beyond me. But anyway, that's tangent. So that's kind of cool. You'll be able to customize that stuff. Be able to, pick what gender you are and customize all your uniforms and stuff. At least it seems that way, which would be so cool. And it says it's going to showcase your driver alongside your car. So, like, if you run into someone in the lobby, it's going to show, basically their drivatar, I guess, or their character, their driver, with the car, which is kind of cool. Just adds another level of personalization, Personally, I think there'll be a lot of inappropriate ones. If there's anything, people are just very predictable. I'll just say that. So anyway, that's cool. They talked a lot about the career, which they titled, they're calling it something different. It's called the Forza Drivers Cup. And basically what he said is something that, honestly, to me is slightly disappointing. But, you can still choose to play it the way you want. So what he said is that in previous generations, they've gone, they've followed the route of like 0 to hero, where you start low and you work your way up to the high stuff. But what he said about this one is you're actually just allowing you to drive whatever car you want at any point. So they said, we're making the assumption that you're already a hero, and we're just going to let you drive whatever you want, which is really cool, I guess. So he said every series will basically have the ability to drive all the way from the highest end cars to the lower end cars, which is cool. That'll allow people to sort of start where they want to, and go through the career. And then the director, the creative director for actual Turn 10 Studios, came on for a minute, and he said that if you finish the career, he said there's actually a really awesome surprise at the end of the career that he doesn't want to spoil for anybody. And they asked him about that. He said, well, he said, we put something in there so that, when you're done with the career, it's not just like you're done with it. There's definitely an incentive to go back and play it again, which sounds cool to me. That sounds like, either a fat cash bonus or a fat bonus of cars, maybe like a dozen cars for finishing the career or something like that. Maybe you get to pick 6 or something, that'd be sick. Or even, some sort of special driver uniform or something like that, which sounds cool. So, to me, honestly, here's where I'm at with it. I know, some people might disagree with this, but I feel like if the gameplay was identical to Forza 6, but it was 4K and it had 750 cars and additional tracks, I'm totally fine with that. One of you guys, if you're here, I don't know if you're watching this one, but you commented on one of my videos, and we've been talking. We were trading some comments back and forth about Project Cars 2 and Gran Turismo Sport. So this right here, I just didn't want to lose this race and have to re-race the whole thing, so I rewound, and I was going to rewind back and take him out. That was the plan. But it wouldn't let me rewind any further after this next rewind here. When I get on the rumble strip on the left, it wouldn't let me rewind anymore. So, but this weird phenomenon happens again where as soon as I resume, watch what this guy does. He like lifts off his throttle or something. So I'm not really sure what that's all about. But yeah, so we were talking about Project Cars 2 and Gran Turismo Sport, and you know, Gran Turismo Sport, I had done some research on before, and I watched a video that, you know, you guessed it, Digital Foundry did about them, you know, talking frame rates and different stuff like that. And you know, it didn't look very impressive to me. You know, Gran Turismo Sport was sort of my first foray into simulation racers. I was really big into like Need for Speed, like Need for Speed Underground 2. I'd raced tons of Cruising World on N64, and I had done even a game called Top Gear 2, which was on the Super Nintendo, which was such a fun game. So I had done lots of racing, but not simulation racing. So Gran Turismo was sort of my first, you know, thing into that. And I remember just like crashing into every barrier on every turn, just thinking like, man, this is so hard. You know, like you actually have to brake. It's like real driving. But you know, so I watched the video and I wasn't really that impressed. As far as I understand, they haven't released the game in a couple years. So of course, anything they do now is going to be a big upgrade. You know, over several years ago. And then, you know, Project Cars 2, Project Cars 1, I mean, Slightly Mad Studios that made Project Cars is a very small studio. And, you know, from some of the interviews I've seen with them, they're actually not even all working in the same office. They're all based all around the world, and then they just kind of share information. And so I saw this interview that was with one of the directors of Project Cars, and he said he feels like Forza Motorsport 7 in particular is playing catch-up to Project Cars. Which, to me, I mean, let's be real, I get that he's a little biased towards his own game, but dude, that is ludicrous to think that you're playing catch-up to Forza. I mean, come on, man. And he, you know, he said dynamic weather. Well, Project Cars had that in 2015. It's like, well, okay, that's fine. I'll give you that. And he said also, Project Cars could be played at 8K or could be played at 12K. And it's like, bro, people don't even have 4K TVs, dude. 10% of U.S. households have a 4K TV, and you're trying to say that Forza's playing catch-up to you because you know, 3 people around the world can max your game at 12K? I mean, come on, man, that's just ridiculous. You know, and honestly, that game is not on the same level as this game. There's not the install base for a hardcore sim like Project Cars. I mean, you know, majority of people who play Forza, even Forza Motorsport, don't care about tuning each tire to a different PSI, changing the tire compound, and running, you know, I mean, people don't care about that. Majority of people don't care about that. And so for him to say that, it's kind of shocking to me. But, so anyway, I mean, I don't know. And also the feel of Project Cars just it's not quite right. The physics feel okay, but it just feels a little bit too violent. Forza is a lot more forgiving. And not in a bad way. Not like, oh, it's more forgiving for, you know, people who aren't as good. It's just, it's just more forgiving. I don't know. It's hard to explain. And I mean, I race a lot. I've got, you know, 400 hours in this game. I probably have 1,000 hours of Forza simulation racing in the last couple years. And I mean, you know, Project Cars is difficult for me even. So to think that, you know, a lot of people will be able to do that, I mean, that's just, I mean, I don't know. So that's my opinion on it. I think Forza is in a different category. They sell far more copies and they have far more players than either of those two games are. And so I don't know that they're really necessarily a direct comparison. Gran Turismo, you know, yeah, Forza has, or I mean, PlayStation has a big install base. They have a ton of consoles out there, so it could be. But I've watched a few videos just today watched a couple 10-minute races on Gran Turismo, and it just did not look quite right to me. It looked almost, honestly, like an old generation. It didn't even look as good as Forza 6. So that was kind of weird for me, but yeah, I mean, I think Forza 7 is poised to do great things. I said in my video yesterday, but due to the fact that, you know, let's just assume that only 10% of people have 4K TVs, which is a statistic that I've heard. If only 10% of people have 4K TVs, that means, you know, half or less of those people have actually seen something in true 4K. You know, because even streaming a 4K video over YouTube to your 4K TV is not watching something in necessarily true 4K. There's all sorts of artifacting and stuff that happens. So the majority of people who buy the Xbox One X and experience Forza 7 in 4K are literally going to fall over. Myself included, which is why I'm going to be sitting down when I play. So I don't fall back and hit my head on the dishwasher or something, you know? Which, you know, is a joke. But, I mean, I can't wait. And even those of us that have the Xbox One S are going to experience it on day one with the HDR, which is going to be epic also. So, I mean, it's going to look so fantastic. I think even if the simulation was a 9 out of 10 compared to a 10 out of 10, like the physics and all that, compared to those other two games, even if that was the case, which I don't think it is, but even if that was the case, I feel like the sheer graphic power of this game is going to overshadow the other stuff. I mean, it's going to look phenomenal. So thank you guys for checking this out. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss anything. I've been trying to cover the news as much as it comes out. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. See you next time.